Hello and good afternoon. My name is Michael Aaron, President and Executive Director of the Rickenbacker Woods Foundation, located here in the capital city, Columbus, Ohio. We're the caretakers of the boyhood home of Captain Eddie Rickenbacker, a National Historic Landmark and one of three in the city of Columbus. We also pay homage to Granville T. Woods, an African American, a prolific African American inventor of over 60 patents. We'll discuss both of our namesakes later in the presentation. Here in this first picture, in this first slide, of course, is the title of today's presentation, Reimagining the Missions of Historic Landmarks and Museums. Over to the left is a current picture of Captain Eddie Rickenbacker's home. And in the lower right is our after-school program in action. We use all the space on this historic campus, and this is one of our primary and award-winning programs that we offer here on the site. I'm assuming that OMA, or the Ohio Museum Association, chose reimagining as the theme for this year's conference, considering many museums and historic sites weren't able to operate in the way that they had been used to in the wake of COVID-19. Understandably so. My presentation today is not going to be, or I will not tell you to do this, to do A, to do B, in reimagining your mission. What I will do today is to share the story of Rickenbacker Woods, how we reconstituted really a defunct organization, brought new life to this historic campus that had once been forgotten and was downtrodden, and brought new life and hope to a community desperate for such. And really, I think our story fits into reimagining the work of landmarks and museums, historic landmarks and museums. I believe that the official definition of a historic landmark would be something along the lines of a site or a structure or a building that has historic significance and is recognized by some historical or government entity. And a museum is a building or structure that houses scientific or historic artifacts and not only stores them, but may put them on display. Well, what happens when you're not able to come visit the building to view these historic artifacts? And what happens when sites are closed or landmarks are closed and you really can't go inside? How relevant then are you to the community in which you're located? Well, I think you can still be relevant. And we here at Rickenbacker Woods have proven so, and it is my pleasure to share our story with you. This picture, before we get into the presentation, it is my hope that by the end of our talk today, that you will be inspired to cause awe and wonder in the minds and faces of children. And also curiosity. Curiosity, in my mind, is the top right picture. And awe and wonder are the two to the left and the one at the bottom to the right. The song says, I believe that the children are our future, and they are. And in all that we do, not just preserving the past, but using it as an opportunity to cause awe and wonder in the hearts and minds of children. So I hope that what we discussed today will lead you along that path and hopefully to do as we have done, or at least in the way that we're trying to do it. So today's presentation objectives. For museums and historic landmarks to reevaluate their purpose in the community, that organizations push beyond current boundaries to meet the needs of their communities, that institutions might seek out new opportunities for collaboration and partnership, and ultimately that leaders might have the courage to do what none other has tried before. Sounds kind of like Star Trek. So here's our logo, Rickenbacker Woods Foundation, and this is our journey. So for those of you who might not know who Captain Eddie Vernon Rickenbacker is, or as we call him, Captain Eddie, there's Rickenbacker Air Force Base, there's Rickenbacker Guitars, there's the Rickenbacker Causeway in Florida, there was a Rickenbacker restaurant in San Francisco. He's our ace of aces. He would be like our Red Baron, but on the state side. And again, he was born right here in Columbus, Ohio. So I think it's important that we talk about both of our namesakes and at least give them some screen time as they are historic figures. So just a few facts about Captain Eddie. He was born in Columbus, Ohio on October 8, 1890 to William and Elizabeth Rickenbacker. He was the third of 8 children born to the couple. William Rickenbacker was killed when Eddie was 12 years old, causing young Eddie to quit school to help the family. Jobs included work at a steel mill, beer factory, bowling alley, and a stint as a cemetery monument engraver. Now, I know that you'll notice, because I know that you all are keen, that I've spelled Rickenbacker different than Rickenbacker. And that's because the original spelling of Eddie's name was Rickenbacker. However, he was of German and Swiss descent. However, during the war, he decided to make his name less Germanic and changed a few letters, mostly that CH to a K, and it became Rickenbacker. So that name right there is done purposely. Fascinated by cars, which had just come on the scene, Eddie learned all he could about mechanics, and he went on to become a race car driver. His first race was in 1910. He also raced in the first Indy 500 in 1911, which he would go on to purchase years later. In 1917, Eddie enlisted with the US Army. He worked his way to France and used his connections, and he was accepted into the Army Air Service. Captain Eddie went on to become known as the Ace of Aces with over 25 confirmed kills. After the war was over, Eddie worked at GM in the aviation department and at various airlines. By 1935, he had returned to GM to manage Eastern Airlines. Eddie turned Eastern profitable and ran the airline for over 30 years. And at that time, Eastern was the most profitable airline in the United States. Most airlines at that time they needed government subsidies to survive. Captain Rickenbacker said, nope, not going to do it. We're going to show you how to do this without government money. And that's what he did. Captain Eddie died July 23rd, 1973, after suffering a stroke and a bout of pneumonia. He died in Switzerland. His boyhood home became a National Historic Landmark in 1974. So here is the house circa 1890s. There's William and Elizabeth right there. House looks pretty good, right? Looks like it does right now. There's young Eddie Rickenbacker as a young man. Now, a few things that I haven't put in this on these slides. Eddie was a rough and tumbler kind of kid. I mean, he had it hard. His family was very, very, very poor. At the time, and I think I might talk about this just a little in later slides when we talk about the community in which this house is located, this historic house is located. But at the time of Eddie's youth, This was all countryside. It was the suburb to downtown Columbus. And really, we're only like maybe 2 miles away from downtown. So that lets you know, it's the 1890s. Um, where our kids play today, they were kids as in goats and pigs and other live animals that Eddie and his family took care of. This was all countryside. And so it was cabbage and other vegetables planted. And that's what they did to survive, you know? And so also, I think what is interesting, and we'll discuss this later in the slide, is that Eddie was the head of a gang. It was called the Horsehead Gang. And, you know, there were young kids who smoked cigarettes, and they were mischievous, put it like that. So I often, you know, I kid folks and I say, you know, well, we talk about the kids in the neighborhood today. I guess we can all trace it back to Captain Eddie. How mad at them can you be? It's history. Here's Eddie the racer. Go, 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 Eddie. Eddie and his wife, Adelaide, and their 2 adopted children. And I don't mean to, you know, specify that they're adopted as if that's a problem or a bad thing. There's a whole story about why Eddie and Adelaide couldn't have children. I won't go into it here, but I would just say that I think it's a special couple with a lot of love in their hearts to adopt 2 children that don't belong to them, but to offer them a fantastic life. And Adelaide loved her husband dearly. So, Granville T. Woods, the Black Edison, born April 23rd, 1856, and who died January 30th, 1910. Just a few facts about Granville T. Woods. He was born in Columbus, Ohio, April 23rd, 1865, to parents Taylor and Martha Woods. His parents were freed by statute of the Northwest Ordinance. Woods left school when he was 10 years old and went to work to support his family. He became an apprentice to a machinist and also learned blacksmithing. Granville literally learned on the job. In 1872, Granville became a firefighter on the Danville and Southern Railroad in Missouri. After only 2 years, Granville left for Springfield to work in a steel mill. By 1878, he had become an engineer on the Ironside, a British steamship. Within 2 years, he was promoted to chief engineer. In all of these positions, Granville experienced discrimination because of his race. This led him to moving to Cincinnati, where he and his brother opened up the Woods Electrical Company. Granville invented over a dozen inventions, leading to over 60 patents that led to improvements in electric railway cars and other devices that controlled the flow of electricity. After years of legal battles to gain control of his inventions, Granville Woods died July 30th, 1910 in New York City. Let me tell you about Mr. Granville T. Woods. When we think of subway cars, when we think of trolley cars with the overhead cables, be grateful to a Granville T. Woods. That third rail that powers subway cars, even today, that's a Granville T. Woods invention. Incubators, Granville T. Woods invention. Steam boilers, Granville T. Woods invention. And we'll talk about some others in the next few slides, one of which I am sure is going to surprise you. And I would like to also say on that whole point of the Black Edison, when we talk about these lawsuits, Thomas Edison sued Granville many times over to claim the rights to Granville's inventions. And so you have this white man who everyone knows about, but you have this genius of a Black man who only some people know about. Luckily, many legal battles came down on the side of Granville. He died of a stroke, though, And I can only guess it was after all these years of stress and strife and grief that he had to experience to fight for the legitimacy of his inventions. And I just think that that's wrong, but it's history. And I'm glad that we honor him at this site. So, Granville T. Wood's synchronous multiplex railway telegraph allowed for communication between moving trains and train depots, greatly improving railway safety. So essentially, this device could send Morse code and signals to the next train station to let them know, or to the next train also, to say, hey, we're all on the same train line. So again, greatly reducing train accidents. Electric railway conduit. So if you look down there at the bottom of this train car, there's your third rail that's going to power it. This provided safety and efficiency, not just for the railway cars, but also, more importantly, for the pedestrians who were crossing the street. Amusement apparatus. Now, I'm going to give you just a few minutes, and I want you to tell me, what do you think that is? I could play the Jeopardy song right now. Actually, I should have had that ready. Check it out. The amusement apparatus. So I've read, and I'm not sure if it's exactly true, but that Granville came up with the first roller coaster. You can see how that would work. I would also, for you children of the 60s, 70s, I'm an 80s baby, we played with something like this, and we called it slot racing. Remember, you would plug it in, or it ran on batteries, and you would control the cars that were in the track. There you go. Our community driving park. So this is the name of the community in which our historic home is located, our historic campus is located. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. So in the next few clips, I've actually included a few articles that will really say what I would say to you, but here's the articles. But what about, and this is from the Columbus Dispatch, October 3rd, 2011. And the article was titled, Quiet District Built for Speed. But what about the name Driving Park? The neighborhood owes its name to a racetrack built in the late 19th century. The Columbus, Ohio Driving Realty Company bought the land in 1892. At first, it was a popular horse racetrack. Eventually, cars began to race around the 1-mile oval. Rickenbacker himself drove there, winning a 25-mile race in 1915. The first Franklin County Fair was held in August 1910 at the track, and again in 1917. Seymour Avenue bordered the track to the east, Ellsworth Avenue to the west. The neighborhood circular park now sits in the middle of what used to be that oval, between Berkeley and Lilly Avenues. Side note, I live on Lilly Avenue. I not only work in the community, I live in the community. In November 1910, the track became a landing strip at the scene of a promotional stunt designed by local businessman Max Morehouse. He set up the first air cargo delivery, hiring Phil Parmalee to fly a Wright Brothers Model B airplane loaded with 200 pounds of silk cloth from Dayton. The track was a big draw for racing crowds. Miller and Kelton Avenues were among the streets built from Broad Street to help get people to the track, said Doug Moats, an Old Oaks community leader and president of the Columbus Historical Society. Doug Moats, a great friend to this foundation, a great neighbor of ours. He lived at the time of this article right down the street from this historic campus. Driving Park, the site of this grandstand. And it was the playground really for the rich. So countryside, poor country folks, then the playground comes, And the Broad Street, if you're from Columbus, you'll know this, or if you're familiar with Columbus. And if you're not familiar with Columbus, you're going to learn something. Big, beautiful, grandiose homes line Broad Street. Many of them have, uh-oh, sorry, sorry. Many of them are businesses now, but the rich and famous would take Miller and Kelton from Broad Street down to the horse races and enjoy the amusements. Here's the grandstand. Isn't it grand? I just think it's wonderful. And I can only imagine, this area is all built up now, but I can only imagine how it would have looked back then. And just let me turn down my phone now before we go any further so I don't get another one of those surprises. Pardon me, excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, so the driving park grandstand. Driving park over the years. As African Americans obtained better paying jobs, they chose this beautiful community to raise their to raise their families. So mind you, the area is no longer countryside. This area was the first streetcar suburb, Livingston Avenue, which is the address where Eddie's house sits, 1334 East Livingston. Livingston Avenue connects this day in 2021, connects downtown Columbus and goes all the way out to the easterly suburbs. After the grandstand was torn down and the area was all plotted out, beautiful brick Tudor styled homes were built with slate roofs. And it was, a pretty middle class, upscale neighborhood. Again, shop owners and shopkeepers from downtown, this is where they live. Beautiful community, beautiful homes. And I'm blessed to have one of those homes. And my family, who I grew up with, my mom and dad, they live here also. And so I stayed in the community. I decided to. I loved it. It's close to downtown. It's close to everything. And it's a beautiful place to live. So back to the slide. Through the 1960s, white flight happened at a rapid pace. History will speak for itself. I don't really need to say much more about that other than that's what happened. Grocery stores closed, restaurants left the neighborhood, and mom and pop shops shuttered. At the same time, many factories on Columbus's south side closed. Those who could afford to leave sold their homes. They moved to Berwick, which is an affluent African-American neighborhood just to the east of Driving Park, right over the freeway. Others went to Upper Arlington. The white folks who lived here went to Upper Arlington. Many of the same homes that you'll see that were built here first, that are older, the same homes now exist in surrounding neighborhoods, the suburban neighborhoods, but they were built here first. What remained is the story of every other inner city neighborhood: failing schools, poverty, a food desert, no grocery stores, no place to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, and really a lack of investment by the city. And when drugs entered the scene in the late 1970s and 80s, and gangs took over, violence erupted, and it stayed this way until hope arrived. So what you have is a once bustling upper middle class African American neighborhood, which was once Jewish and then turned predominantly African American, middle class, upper middle class, beautiful, gorgeous. But the shops and the restaurants and the shoe stores and the grocery stores and the candy stores and everything that you would imagine in a close-knit community that was here left. And then there was nothing except carryouts to buy beer and liquor. So I want to pause here just for a moment before we read this new article. to give you some context to what we're about to read in these next few slides. So the neighborhood, there were homeowners who stayed, who had been here 30, 40 years. They held on to their homes. They, did what they could through the civic associations to keep hope alive, that a better day would come, but people knew that this side of town was kind of rough. And it wasn't the desirable place to live necessarily. Beautiful homes, yes, but the dilapidation that had occurred, it just wasn't a pretty sight. And so Eddie's house went into disrepair. And in 1998, the city of Columbus purchased the house. They wanted to save it. Mind you, it's one of 3 National Historic Landmarks. Someone had lived in the house up until 1990s, till 98. And then after they moved out, that's when the city jumped in, bought the house. And neighbors, some of the senior citizen folks of the civic associations that taught me about civic engagement, they banded together and they says, we're going to save Eddie's house. And so they came up with the plan. The first step was, let's get the outside of it renovated and get it historically accurate. And then we're going to see about tearing down all the houses around it. And we're going to build a beautiful museum and technology center that's going to talk about Eddie Rickenbacker and Granville T. Woods. And hopefully this will become a generator of goodness, essentially, for this community and an economic incubator. This grandiose project was designed to help turn the community around. Well, now we can read this article. Eddie Rickenbacker returned home to a hero's welcome after World War I. The years since have not been as kind to the house he grew up in on the south side of Columbus. Eddie Rickenbacker, I just read that. Malt liquor bottles lay in the grass last week outside 1334 East Livingston Avenue, where the World War I flying ace grew up. An empty pack of Newport cigarettes rested near a sign trumpeting Rickenbacker's claim to fame, downing 26 German planes. White paint peeled from a picket fence between the house and the sidewalk. The gate was shut. It wasn't supposed to be like this. In 2006, after decades of planning and lobbying, local officials and community members announced a plan to restore the house, one of 3 Columbus locations designated as National Historic Landmarks. The others are the State House and Ohio Theater. So, the house doesn't look good. It's kind of trashed. And here's a picture of what it looked like. This was the picture in the newspaper article of the Columbus Dispatch. Looks kind of rough. So this original group of neighbors and government folks got together, and again, they got the house exterior renovated, and they had these placards put up. And all those houses that you see in the back and off to the side, and that bar over to the left, all that was going to come down, and this $8 million museum was going to be raised, and this was going to be an economic generator for the neighborhood. It was going to be a magnet for greatness. And we even had in charge of the organization at that time, it was called the Rickenbacker Woods Technology Museum and Historic Park, long name. We had ex-government officials that were leading the organization. And in this article from 2014, that former government official can be quoted as saying that they couldn't raise any money to push the project forward. So like $500,000 went into the exterior of the house and a grant for these placard signs, and that's as far as they got. And when the economic collapse happened in 2008, that was the end of the project. Everything kind of like it is now with COVID. Back then in 2008, same thing. Everything kind of just fell apart. And so once again, Eddie's house became abandoned. But I, living in the community, felt like we've got to do something. We're going to do something. One, I like airplanes. Side note, I work for American Airlines as a full-time job. My work here at Rickenbacker is part-time. We're not really salaried here because our budget isn't large enough to do so. Always been fascinated by airplanes, and I just think it's serendipitous that here I am working on Eddie Rickenbacker's house and his legacy, another aviation enthusiast. It's really a pleasure to do so. And living in the neighborhood and going past this property all the time, I feel like there's got to be a way to save it. And really, my vision was that green building over to the right, back there behind that tree. Now, this whole lot that Eddie's house sits on was deemed historic. That cinder block building, of course, is not historic. It used to be a welder shop, and I think the tax records say it was built like 1950 something. Well after Eddie had left, well after he was a big, a national hero. After his mother had passed. Had she passed by then? I don't think she was living in the house though, then I'm sure. Anyway, my dream was that this cinder block building could be turned into a learning center, one that would be attached to this historic site always and forever, that people could come visit and we can do classes and workshops. And at the time, that's as far as my idea had gotten. We can do something with that building. Let's use what we have. We're not going to do an $8 million museum. It's hard enough to raise $100,000, let alone $8 million. If I had $8 million, I'd buy the whole block. So let's move on. So a year later, that little thought that I had, and then talking to the neighbors and talking to some government officials, an idea was born. So a group that wants to build dozens of houses in a struggling neighborhood east of Nationwide Children's Hospital plans to apply for tax credits to finance that development in a property near Eddie Rickenbacker's boyhood home. Buckeye Community Hope Foundation owns a charter school in the neighborhood and wants to develop the lease to own houses nearby. Meanwhile, another group has reformed to try again to boost interest in developing the humble home of Rickenbacker, a World War I ace, into a museum. We believe this is a different time and a different era in Driving Park, said Michael Aaron, a neighborhood resident who is executive director of the nonprofit Rickenbacker Woods Innovation and Technology Campus. That campus includes the Rickenbacker House at 1334 East Livingston Avenue, as well as a house next door at 1324 East Livingston and a garage behind the Rickenbacker house. So here's the backstory on this housing development piece. This Buckeye Community Hope Foundation, they came to the neighborhood and they said, hey, we are going to purchase this old closed down public school that's not operating anymore, and we're going to turn it into a charter school. And the neighborhood objected, oh, we don't like charter schools, we're all about public education, thanks but no thanks. And then people came around and says, well, at least it's not going to be an old closed down school. We have enough closed down, shut down buildings in the neighborhood, to put it nicely. So the school gets built, we'll renovate it. It looks beautiful. $2 million goes into the school. It opens up. Great job. So then Buckeye Community Hope Foundation comes back to the neighborhood again. And so this is after that housing crisis. And if you thought, if there were dilapidated, rickety homes in our neighborhood before the crisis, holy smokes, you should have seen it after the crisis. It was just bad. Every 2 or 3 houses was vacant and abandoned. Weeds, trash. It looked rough. It just did. And I love my neighborhood, but that's how it looked. And so Buckeye Community Hope Foundation comes back and says, hey, we want to tear down all these vacant homes, and we're going to do it through this tax credit scheme. I don't want to call it a scheme because it's not a scheme, but this tax credit plan. And we would like your support. So the neighborhood gives them the support, and they go through the process. First, they have to go to the mayor. And the mayor says, you know what? At the time, it was Mayor Michael Coleman, longest serving mayor in the city of Columbus. History. Mayor Coleman says the first time around, you know what? Good plan, good idea, but it needs some pizzazz. And anyone who knows Mayor Michael Coleman knows that he likes pop, he likes pizzazz, he likes wow factors. So Michael Aaron in the background says, hey, well, we have this Eddie Rickenbacker home, and it is a national historic landmark, and it does need saving. Is there any way that we can get together to do something for you to win in your project and for me and the neighborhood to win and get this thing going again? So this is what we came up with. We will turn the green cinder block building into the Learning Center, which will also be the community center utilized by the residents of the new homes that are to be built. And we will utilize a small green building, that's 1324 East Livingston, not historic, but also purchased by the city of Columbus in 1998, because it's in the same motif as Eddie's house. Eddie's house was built in 1893. This little greenhouse with no historic significance, but that favors and resembles Eddie's house, was built in 1910. We're going to renovate the 1910 house and utilize that as a leasing office for the homes, the lease to own homes, thereby bringing life back to Eddie's historic property. No plan for the actual historic house. Let's just get life back into the property. So we reapply, well, Buckeye Community Hope Foundation reapplies, but with the added historic piece with Captain Eddie Rickenbacker. And what do you know? Many months down the line, Mayor Michael Coleman signed off. Great idea. And when I saw him and I thanked him personally, he says, well, it was full of merit. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So the tax credit plan then has to go to the state of Ohio. And they read over our plan, the whole historic aspect included, and then they approve of the plan. And at that point, ladies and gentlemen, a $12 million deal was born, and the neighborhood was going to see the first development it had seen in over 40 years. The first new something, the first new breath of life. Finally, these dilapidated homes with overgrown weeds and trash were going to be no more. They were going to be affordable, beautiful, top tier, energy efficient homes that were, more importantly, once again, I've said it once, affordable. Very important to a neighborhood like ours. Oh, our project approved. So in the meantime, while the paperwork is getting worked out, because let me tell you, these tax credit deals, I had never done one before, obviously, But by being involved, it's an arduous process. I mean, you're talking investors and money and contracts. A whole, it's interesting. I learned a lot. Grateful that I went through the process. But in the meantime, while all the paperwork is getting signed and the contracts and all the government stuff and all the financial dealings and the banks and then, all that stuff, we, Rickenbacker Woods, we went to the community to ask them. We held a focus group at a local church. Because mind you, at this point, we're just vacant buildings over here at Rickenbacker's campus. And we went to a local church where many community meetings have been held in the past. And we held a focus group, had some snacks and stuff. And we said, hey, this is what we're thinking for this historic site. But you all knowing the history, having lived here for many years, what would you like to see at Eddie Rickenbacker's campus and Granville T. Woods campus? And also, what did you want to see in your community? What are your aspirations and your thoughts, your wishes? If you could write a wish list out, what do you want? What are your dreams? And so we got an answer. And our focus groups that we held guided the creation of our new mission and our new vision. The mission, created by our board of trustees. The Rickenbacker Wood Foundation strives to ignite the spirit of innovation and perseverance embodied through the lives and legacies of Captain Eddie Rickenbacker and Granville T. Woods, providing youth access and opportunities to STEAM education while fostering the personal development of families and the community. Eddie Rickenbacker dropped out of school. He had very little formal education. When he went to the military, he wanted to be a pilot desperately. At that time, the only college graduates were allowed to become pilots. You had to be a college graduate. It was an elite type of thing. Aviation was very new. They considered Eddie a country bumpkin from the sticks, not on our level. But he fought, he persevered. Through the war, he persevered. A multitude of accidents and injuries, he's persevered. When he was stuck out on the life raft in World War II for over 20 days, nearing death, he kept 3 rafts of men alive. Perseverance. Granville T. Woods, lack of education, but perseverance. Racial discrimination, yet perseverance. Thefts of his inventions, but perseverance. When the board came up with this mission, our goal was to communicate, especially to the young people who lived in this community, that regardless of where you come from, regardless of your family's financial means, regardless of your last name, or the color of your skin, or your gender, deep down, you have the very thing inside of you that can become great. Greatness already resides in you. You just have to persevere. And so we share the stories of the lives of these 2 gentlemen to inspire a new generation. Of course, we have a mission and a vision. Our campus serves as a resource for families and the community through the facilitation of programming that provides holistic opportunities for personal enrichment. In other words, programming that provides hope. During our focus group, hope, the word hope was repeated several times. I still have the notes. And our board member, John Zukowski, led the facilitation, led the focus group. He led it, and I took the notes. And he did a really good job at it too. And I still have those notes. And I made sure I brought them with us when the board reconvened to really discuss our mission and our vision. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? But let this mission and this vision guide us in whatever it is that we do. And I think we're holding true to it. Hope. Imagination is more important than knowledge. I was going through some of our social media pages, looking for pictures to be able to add to this PowerPoint. And I found this one. Now, I didn't Google this. And so, you know, there's a historian out there that says that is not accurate. Albert Einstein didn't say it. He might not have, he may have. I didn't look it up, but I love Albert Einstein and I love the quote. So whoever put the two together, hey, thank you very much. I included this in this PowerPoint. Imagination is more important than knowledge. To kind of hone in on that whole reimagining thing that we have going on. It was in my imagination that we could do something about this Rickenbacker campus. It was in my imagination that we could turn this old cinder block welder shop, a mechanic shop, into a real learning center. It was in my imagination that these things could be done, knowing full well I didn't have a dime to do it. And it was in my imagination that these things could be done, knowing that the project had failed before. And who will be willing to give us some more money? It was all in my imagination. And I had no idea how to do it. There's the knowledge part. However, imagination is more important sometimes, many times, than the knowing how to do it. Sometimes I have found that if you can dream it, the answer on how to do it will come. It might not come from you, but if you share the dream, sometimes other folks will give you the answer on the how to. I remember reading something that said Plato used to, was it Plato? Did he stand on the corner and ask people random questions? It was one of those historic figures from, or was it Eric? Could have been Aristotle, but Plato rings the bell. You can say something in the comments or send me an email. But one of them stood on the corner and asked people random questions. Well, not to test them, because you never know what the answer might be. It might be the answer that you're looking for. I'm just saying. So moving on. Love this quote. So you saw that picture from the newspaper article. Here's a better picture of that green building, not historic, but on the parcel of Eddie Rickenbacker's home. And this is what I looked at and felt like this can be a learning center. Yes, it can. The structure was already there. All we had to do was work on it and fix it up. This is the before. This is the inside of the building. Our office assistant, Siobhan, I didn't realize she had never seen these pictures. And when I was showing her this PowerPoint, she says, oh my gosh, we've got to get these because we have other pictures of before and afters on our wall, but not of the inside of our current building that we're in now. And she's right. I need to put these pictures out there on the wall and really in testament of what the inside of our center and our offices used to look like. This was it. Scary, just kind of scary and cobwebby, you know? Scary and cobwebby. But the deal has been done. The paperwork has been signed and renovation is underway. 2016. I remember coming by and taking a look and said, holy smokes, here it comes, it's working. This was a great feeling, great feeling. Now, this is the outside of the green building. Eddie's house would be towards the front and to the left. So, and you might wonder why that fence is there. So let me give you a little history into this, the paperwork and the red taping kind of thing. So because the cinder block building was on the same parcel as Eddie's house, anything on that parcel is historic. So we had to do some new delineations of the parcel lines, property lines. So we cut out Eddie's house, made it its own parcel, cut down the size of the parcel, and then took that cinder block building and created a new parcel that included this little greenhouse. So all that within that fence, the foundation owns. Hence, that's why you see the renovation work. So this is also the greenhouse, this 1910 house, similar to Eddie's house, but not historic. And this house is being turned into an office. This is the leasing office for the, and ended up being a total of 47 homes that were renovated in that project, were built or renovated. This is being renovated, but the other homes were built from scratch, new homes. And so all of this work is being done through that tax credit program. And there's the outside of that green cinder block building. We're getting a porch. And you can see that door there used to actually be a window. In the previous pictures, that was a window. But now we have a front door. Ta-da! And that's the finished product as of 2017. Now I can tell you now we've added some beautiful flowers and we have butterfly bushes and it's been all mulched in. I really should have taken a newer picture, but the flowers aren't in yet. You know, it's just now spring. We have bushes in the front of the building and mulch. It's all nice and mulched and butterfly bushes. It looks really beautiful. You know, we've done gardening projects here and we have well, you'll see the pictures later of the community garden, but we have like, yeah, it's really beautiful now. So it's filled in. This is just right after the construction was done, right after. Beautiful building. And our address is 1330 East Livingston Avenue. So Eddie Rickenbacker's is 1334. We're 1330 East Livingston Avenue. So this is our first event in 2017. The building, you know, we just got the keys. It's all opened up. The walls are bare. It's kind of like when you move into your first place. You have the building, but you don't have a whole lot going. You know, it's not fully decorated yet. And we'll talk more about the aviation camp underneath our programs. But I really just wanted to show this picture so you can see that it went from very cobwebby and scary to a fully functioning, well-lit, renovated, HVAC, carpeted, ADA compliant building that is now here for the community forever and ever and ever on Eddie Rickenbacker's site. And my heart overflowed to see these young people come in and enjoy the space we built for them. We built this for them. This is just, I put this in just as another angle so you can see the other way. This was a home renovation class with the Columbus Landmark Foundation. And I have a slide all about partners, but yes, but look, this is the beauty of our building. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, open to the public. Now, I can tell you now, we have all kind of looking out of my office door. We have all kind of things on the wall now. It's all fully furnished. It's lovely. People over property. So when we started this whole project, I shared with the board, the Columbus Dispatch ended up writing another article, and they says, hey, there's all this activity happening, around this whole Rickenbacker project, but there's not a whole lot happening with the house, the historic house, that is. And as I explained to the Dispatch and others who asked, and this is maybe like, 2017-ish, I said, look, if we take care of the community, if we help people, if we do what our mission and our vision says, I think we will establish the credibility to be able to talk about getting more money to do the house. But first, let's take care of the people, and then we'll be able to take care of the property. I just believed in my heart, if we take care of the people first, the property will be taken care of, the historic house being the property. But let's meet the needs of the people first, and they will be our biggest champions. I believe that then, and as you will see in the upcoming slides, it paid off. So with that, people over property, let's keep people in mind. And so I promise you, I wouldn't give you a to-do list. These are just the things that Rickenbacker Woods did. We developed powerful relationships. We created programming full of purpose and opportunities. That shouldn't have come up like that. I thought it would have come up as one whole bullet point. Interesting. We are mindful, we are mindful of service, or service-minded, and that's really serving people, being of service. And we try to be mindful of our audience. And so these upcoming slides, I could talk about it, and I can make, bullet points about it, but I think pictures versus 1,000 words, or however that saying goes. Oh, and lastly, don't overthink it. There was one more bullet point. So, relationships. The first two that we really cultivated was obviously the City of Columbus and Buckeye Community Hope Foundation. So when the Rickenbacker House project soloed by itself, 10, 15 years ago, the city put in money, the state put in money, and Franklin County put in money to get this exterior house renovated, the exterior of the house renovated. It was going to be this big project, and then it really didn't go anywhere. The city didn't look too good. How do you have this historic house? Well, you saw the newspaper article. It wasn't supposed to be this way. That's what the article said. So the city of Columbus was glad, very happy, to see the home of one of its sons being taken care of. and we were told we would have their full support. The next relationship, obviously, was Buckeye Community Hope Foundation, in that we had the same interest in seeing development happen in this community. The next partnerships that these are the base. This is at the very beginning, the very beginning. Obviously, the Columbus Landmarks Foundation, an I mean, the who they are, what they do is right there in their name. A nonprofit organization that sees to it that landmarks are saved in the city of Columbus. And obviously, they became great champions in our cheerleaders. Also, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Ohio Memorial chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen. So, a bit of history for those of you who might not know. Rickenbacker Air Force Base, which is Rickenbacker Airport today, was once called Lockbourne Air Force Base. It's south side of Columbus. The name was changed from Lockbourne Air Force Base to Rickenbacker Air Force Base after Eddie Rickenbacker died. Lockbourne Air Force Base was the last home of the Tuskegee Airmen, the last home, their last Air Force Base, right here in Columbus, Ohio. There's a neighborhood just east, and we really consider them part of us, of Driving Park, but their name is Hanford Village. It's a small community. First Black mayor. It was really like a Black village. It was Hanford Village. And then, of course, it was incorporated into the city of Columbus. But the homes there are those military style, single floor, you know, I don't know, I just know that they're military style. Well, that's where the Tuskegee Airmen lived. And they would drive down Alum Creek Drive here in Columbus to go to Lockbourne Air Force Base. Now, I'm going to tell you, and the Tuskegee Airmen, they didn't really have a home of their own. They had an organization, this memorial chapter. And of course, aviation, they're all run by pilots, either former, current, retired former, some Air Force, some commercial, some currently still flying for airlines or the military. Mostly African-American, not all, but predominantly African-American. And so here's the one thing, because I remember before Rickenbacker, before our foundation got our home, before we opened up the center, we used to have to meet at the library, and sometimes we would meet at my house or other board members' houses. And I remember what it was like not to have our own space. I made sure that one of the things that we would do was to be open to other nonprofits, to utilize our space and really not to charge them. It would be part of our service to offer to others, because really it was a blessing that we even got what we have, a beautiful renovated property. Excuse me. And so I think it's good karma to put it out into the universe to help others. And why not? They're the Tuskegee Airmen, for goodness sake. So they became our cheerleaders. Driving Park Civic Association, a neighborhood civic group. It's important to build these relationships, because in whatever work you're going to do, you're going to need support and people to write letters when it comes time to go asking for money. Relationships are important. And I think, though, this is something that you, museum and historic landmark professionals, probably already know. So I'm not going to spend any more time on this slide. Programs and opportunities. Hope. So one of our premier events that we do for free through grant writing is our Driving Park Family Fun Day. And you see this wall of people. On the other side of that are tables of being served their popcorn and their chips and their goodies and their snacks. And every year we have about, well, last year, well, not 2020 because COVID, but 2019, we had about 700 people, 600 people the year before that. The first year, about 500. So every year it increases. We have carnival games and carnival music and DJs and sirens and whistles and games and prizes and balloon art and face painting and snacks and chips and what are those raffle giveaways? You name it, we have it. And it's all for free. You should see no one really drives over. They just walk down the street to come to our beautifully fenced in area. And they enjoy and they partake. And that was the whole idea. That was the point. And you can see they just enjoy the neighborhood. I mean, the neighborhood comes and enjoys the property. Hey, gotta love it. 700 people. Now, honestly, 2020, we didn't do it. We are considering, we'll see how things go for 2021. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure yet, but we'll see. But definitely missed having this. Our college bus trip, now through grant writing and our main sponsor, the United Way of Central Ohio, 2018 and 2019, and we had planned for 2020, but 2020, COVID. We've done a college tour day trip. So the first trip we did in 2018, we took 40 students from the neighborhood on a free, everything we do is free. In the beginning, when we had no grant money, when we would do just little neighborhood parties, I put in the money to help start it until we could get some grant money. And then once the grant money started coming in, I meant we're going to do get the biggest bang for our buck. And the idea behind the college trips, the bus trips, yes, it's to go visit a college, yes. But many of these kids from the central city of Columbus have never even been out to the suburbs, let alone driving out of town and going to another city. You would be surprised how many have never left Columbus. I'm here to tell you. So we're going to load you up. We're going to pack coolers of brown paper bag lunches. I go old school. I feel like these young people need to know about some of these old school ways. We're going to pack a cooler and make the teenagers carry the cooler. And, we're going to get on the bus. And, of course, it's early morning, so the kids sleep all the way there. So the first year we went to the Dayton area, and we went to the National Air Museum. We went to Central State University. We visited Wilberforce University. And we went to Yoder's Dairy Farm in Springfield, Ohio. I wanted the kids to see animals, not kids, they're teens. So I wanted the young people to see animals and to feed the animals and to experience country life and to see something different and to get out of the city and away from their trouble. Trouble of mind, trouble at home, trouble at heart, trouble, worry, concern. Take a break. Just go for a drive. See something different. It's another avenue of us helping create and instill hope. So this is from the second year. We took our group of teens, loaded them on a bus, and we drove north this time. So we went to Case Western Reserve University. We took them to Millersburg to Amish country. Where else did we go? Oh, we had lunch in Little Italy in Cleveland. And we stopped somewhere else. Oh, we went to, what was that museum around University Circle? like a natural history museum, and they have live animals and birds, and it was kind of amazing. I really kind of want to go back for myself to the visit. So if the Natural History Museum from Cleveland, Ohio was here, hey, great job. Love your facility. We'll be back. But this is Amish country. Oh, Little Italy. We went to Mama Santa Pizzeria, and the pizza was delicious. And I had never been to Little Italy in Cleveland myself, but it was just a fantastic experience. This is Central State University in the recreation building. I can't think of the proper name for it. They have, it's a college university, it's a university. So of course this building has a name. I just can't think of it. But what I think is more important, look at all of the students who came on our bus trip and look at them enjoying life. They're enjoying each other. Look, they're just getting along. Anyone who says that young people, especially young people from the inner city, are all terrible, criminal minded, they have nothing going on, they're all bad, 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 I beg to differ. Look at this picture. These are all random children, many who don't know each other, and they were so well behaved. We had not a problem. Can't wait to do the next trip. I think this trip we're going to Cincinnati. The next trip we're going to go to University of Cincinnati, maybe visit the Underground Railroad Museum. And any other suggestions on the way between Columbus and Cincinnati, any suggestions, feel free to email me. My email will be at the end. This is the bus ride back. And yes, I got a good deal on the charter bus, and you can tell that's an old school charter bus. Look at those plaid seats. They didn't care. I think this wasn't Yoder's. I think this was the Amish country, I believe. Yeah, this was Amish country. I should have put a picture with the roosters. The roosters were actually beautiful. Yes, it's Amish country. Look at her dress. You can see by the dress. Yep. So this is a scene from our award-winning after-school program. We offer after-school tutoring through the school year for 2nd through 5th grade students at no charge. Once again, no charge. Only by grant money can we do these things. In previous years, until COVID, we would have 25 students a year. And we partnered, here's the partnership piece, with Capital University, not the big Ohio State University, but Capital University, a private liberal arts school right here in town. You know, Columbus is a college town. We have many to choose from. But Capital, thinking outside of the box and reimagining their vision. Thank you, Dr. Beth Paul, who former president of Capital. During our startup, she was new to Capital. It was a perfect mesh, right time, right place, perfect timing. Dr. Beth Paul is no longer with Capital. Miss her dearly. Miss her dearly. Capital University, their students of the Bonner Leaders, some of you might know what the Bonner Leader program is. Fantastic scholarship program. Their students come over and serve as tutors and mentors to these young people from the community. And again, you see, we have white children, black children, girls, boys. Hey, it's a fantastic environment. And yes, even in the midst of COVID in 2021, our program is still running. We are still running an after-school program this year. And as Governor Mike DeWine, thank you, Governor DeWine, who supported us financially through the state funds, of course, not personally. But thank you, Governor Mike DeWine. As he said, Mike, you know now more than ever, after-school programs are important, especially during this COVID crisis. So, oh, there are our children. And you know this was pre-COVID because no one has a mask on. All of our kids, of course, now wear masks. And they're doing a little clay work, a little model. No, that's not modeling clay. That's that real clay. I don't know what this project is they're doing. You can see the little terrarium. Are the terrariums? I think that's the word. Look in the very back picture. You know, we're all about reduce, reuse, recycle. So we took those old water bottles and soda and jugs and made little terrariums out of it and grew seeds in there and then put those seeds over in our garden. Fantastic. So this is a great picture. The lady in the yellow and black dress. That's our wonderful, we call her in the program Miss Kim. Her name is Miss Kim, but really it is Judge Kimberly Codecroft of the Franklin County Common Police Court, 12-year sitting judge. And she came out to read to our children. And she invited some of them up to read with her, even those who were shy, even those who didn't read well. And it was a fantastic day. And you can see the young people love her. This is a field trip to the skating rink. So we just don't have them come and do after school programming. We take the kids on field trips. I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the era of field trips. And we look forward to field trips. Field trips are important. It's about exposure to seeing different things and experiencing different things. And I mean, we need more field trips for young people, period. I'm just going to say that. No reading time. This is to one of our metro parks here in the city. And those are real buffalo back there. Or are they bison? Nope, they're bison. And we took our kids out. It was cold that day, but they had a good time. Then we took them out for pizza afterwards. This is a trip to Ohio Village during Christmas time. Love Ohio Village. Thank you, Ohio History Connection. When I was a kid, we went to Ohio Village, and I was so glad to be able to take our kids to Ohio Village. So the next slide, be service-minded. So these are just a few pictures of our community cleanups. Of course, they're standing in front of our after-school program sign. But we do a lot of community cleanups here in the neighborhood. The community needs it, especially after winter, you know, just things collect. After the big fall, it just looks kind of rough. This year hasn't been too bad, and I'm very grateful for that. But we love to do community cleanups. This was the first year we installed the garden. I can tell you we have many more raised beds now, and all those perennials have grown in. And we also have all kinds of bushes and butterfly bushes and trees, and we've added so much. But this was the very first year, and these are our community volunteers who came out to help us. This is a different cleanup day. Hey, there's our city Councilman Emmanuel Remy and his 2 children. And that's one of our Civic Association ladies back there, Miss Terry Elliott. Hello. Now let's see if this YouTube video will play. If not, we're going to go on to the next slide. Oh, it wants to go to explore. Well, it was just a news story from something we did during COVID. We had the community come out and talk about community issues, about some housing issues, the cost of housing, whether redlining was starting to happen again in our community. And we did it socially distant, while being socially distant. Everyone wore their mask, you know, it was gloves, you know, when we served the food, no one got their own food. And Channel 6 News came out and did a story, and I thought I would share. But you can go to our YouTube page and check it out, or just visit us on social media, and you can watch it. I didn't want to take additional time just to show the video. So also, next up, know your audience. Know the community. You know, we know through the focus group the needs of the folks who we're here to serve. So We do food giveaways in partnership with our wonderful state representative, Erica Crawley. We've done all kinds of food giveaways, but this is the first year that she participated in the manner in which she did. So it was so much food, and the feedback that we got was that people had food for days afterwards, and they fed their families, and some of them had food enough to share. And so, we use some of the government food boxes that come from the USDA. And we also get donations to be able to go to our food pantry to buy additional fresh fruits and vegetables to go with the food box. And then we talk to various grocers and things, and they donate turkeys as well. So we get various donations, put it all together, and have a bountiful blessing for people. Thanksgiving was so good that we did it for Christmas. And really this year it was needed, because the economy, it was needed this year. It was really, 2020, it was really needed. Separate from Thanksgiving and Christmas, here are food boxes. Also, community legal nights. We've done this in partnership with, once again, Capital University and their Family and Youth Law Center. We did this in 2019, and this was regarding landlord and tenant law and consumer awareness. Free legal clinics. Come ask a lawyer. Know your audience. And this being a heavily, we have a lot of home ownership, but we also have a lot of landlord and tenants, well, tenants really. And some landlords aren't always the kindest. Also, we've offered Generational Wealth Home Buyer Education Series, and this ran for about a month and a half. I only put up one flyer though. Buffy Patterson to the left lives in Driving Park and runs her own, I don't know if you would call it like a realty branch, but HER. She runs her own HER realtor. And it was just great for her to come out and talk about credit and how to buy a home, etc. We want to turn the people who are tenants into homeowners. That's the goal, providing hope. This is a call to fathers. And so this is a partnership with Columbus Fatherhood, its own organization, a separate nonprofit group who doesn't have space. And I know the president, Stefan Dunn, great guy. And I said, hey, you need a place, just come use Rickenbacker. So a lot of people think that we do all the programming here. A lot of times, sometimes, I won't say a lot of times, sometimes we just partner with groups who don't have space. We offer them our space, we become a partner, and so we both are offering the programming. So fantastic fatherhood group. Loved this flyer a lot when we did this flyer. Loved it a lot, and look forward to looking forward to having all these kind of groups and having all of this back. Virtual is great, in person is better. That's just my view. Exposure to healthy options. So Driving Park has the highest rate of type 2 diabetes in the county, in Franklin County. And there isn't a grocery store in walking distance at all. And there isn't a direct bus service. There is no grocery store without connecting with your groceries. You'd have to catch 2 buses to get to the grocery store in one direction and 3 buses to get to the grocery store in another direction. So that's why our garden is so important. I think you've seen the pictures of the garden, at least the start of it. The garden's bigger, it's huge. But we utilize some stuff from the garden for this event, and we purchased some things just to make sure we had enough. And we partnered with Willoughby Soul Veg, a vegan restaurateur here in Columbus. And so he came out and taught for free. He came over to teach people how to cook healthy, vegan. And so obviously this is pre-COVID, and they've got they've got the ingredients and things going. It's going, and it smelled so good, and the food was delicious. And look at the kids, look at the families. So we just put these events up on Eventbrite. People sign up, they go to the, we fill it to capacity, and boom, here it is. Look at the dads helping the kids. So love this event, Holiday Lights Trolley Tour. And we also do on the same day a holiday bazaar. So we turn the inside of our building into a bazaar. And we have vendors come in and they sit here from 12 to 8, and people come by and they buy stuff. The vendors pay a booth fee to us, which goes into our kitty. They make money because people come by. And then from 5 to 8, which is obviously the busiest time of the whole bazaar, because people come for the Christmas light tour. So they hop on this trolley bus. We take them around to look at the Christmas lights for free. And they can come by and buy all kind of little holiday trinkets. We light a fire pit outside. We have the Christmas music going. It's Christmas, Christmas. Love Christmas. It's a great time. Oh, here's now the Rickenbacker house has since been painted. This was the first year we did the Christmas thing, and it hadn't been painted yet. We painted it in 2018. So the paint looks much better than this now. But look, we light up the Rickenbacker house. Here's the trolley bus tour going on the Christmas light tour. And, I love New York City. I spent a lot of time in New York City. I love the vendors on the street. And I wanted it to have that New York big city chestnuts out there roasting kind of feel. And so we have a vendor. We also do movies under the stars, right out here on our lawn, summertime movies. Here's one showing. Got the kids, bring your blankets, have a seat. We do free popcorn and sodas. I don't think this is Superman, though. This is some other movie. I mean, Spider-Man, sorry. So the question, what about the historic landmark? I know you're like, well, what about the house? You do all these wonderful things for the community. What about the historic house? Well, in 2020, at the end of the year, we found out, with a huge thanks to the Ohio General Assembly 133rd session, we were awarded $100,000 from the capital budget to begin the work on the museum inside of the historic Captain Eddie Rickenbacker boyhood home. And so this won't be just a house museum, having furniture, etc. That's cool. I've seen those. Those are cool. Period pieces. This will be a living history exhibit. And it will be a digital museum where we will digitally tell the story of Captain Eddie Rickenbacker and Granville T. Woods, and also the history of this community, of Driving Park, of Livingston Avenue, of Chick Harley of Ohio State University, who lived up the street. Jack Nicklaus lived the other way, up the street. This whole community, the South Side, is full of history. It will tell the story of the Millers and the Keltons, the names of the streets that brought the wealthy here to play. It will tell the story of the James Johnsons and the A.C. Robinsons, and of the Robert Caldwells, and of those who were neighborhood civic leaders whose name, none of those names you will know, but who helped hold the community together at its lowest point until hope arrived, who taught me all about civic engagement and how to help the neighborhood. We will tell their stories. So this just won't be about Eddie and Granville. And I think that Eddie and Granville would appreciate it, because these are stories of perseverance, and that's who they represent. So I just had a conversation today with the Ohio Facilities Commission about working up the money. We have an architect selected. I have an exhibitor exhibit designer selected. What else are we doing? I'm looking for an electrician that's going to be very good to give us an estimate. Just to, as we work on the budget, and then we'll put out the RFP for it. But I'm just kind of working on the budget. So, hey, museum's coming. The museum is coming. People over the property. And so I'm glad to have seen this all work out in that we took care of the community first over these past, we started this in 2014, 15. We opened up our doors and got the keys in 2017. So 2017, 18, 19, 20. So 4 years in, we've been all about helping the people first. Yes, we're a historic landmark, but how do we help the people first? The people over the property. And now we can turn our attention back to the property. Now we can turn our attention back to the property while still helping the people. I mean, these food giveaways, we've had to do things differently, but from the beginning, it's always been about the people. And even now in this museum, it will be about the people. So I believe this might be the last slide. This was an honorary thing that would go on the plaque from our state representative, who, thank you, Erica Crowley, and State Senator Herschel Craig, who supported, and Senate President Larry Obhoff. Must give him credit because State Senate President Obhoff, State Senator, President of the Senate, Larry Obhoff, came out to visit us pre-COVID, visit the Rickenbacker house. Because this is all about, we've got to talk to some folks and say, hey, this is important, come out and see us. And we asked for more than what we got, but I'm going to tell you, we sing a little song in church, and the song goes, God will take a little and he'll turn it into a lot. So we've done more with the little. People think that we have like bucks in the bank. We just make it look really good. We have a very small budget. Siobhan and I'm grateful to her, the office manager here, that's her title, for sticking through, because we have not, there's no salaried check constantly coming. Not for the whole 4 years. A lot of, really 5, 6 years. A lot of this was pro bono because we believed in the project and we knew what it would take. And it's a blessing to have people stick with you to help the dream become real. And so here we are. We have a building. We are blessing people. We're saving history. We're making history. And we are relevant. So I hope you've gathered something. Oh, here's my info. I hope that you have found this not just, inspirational, but that you will take this and be able to help utilize it at your own organizations. I wish you the best. I wish you an enjoyable summer 2021. Go out there, find out what the community needs, get some events planned. Go for it. Thank you all so much.